Good morning. This is Dr. Noshirwan Shoaib here. I'm the chair of IEEE MTT AMC chapter. I'm also working as assistant professor at Research Institute for Microwave and Millimeter Wave Studies at National University of Science and Technology, Islamabad. I welcome you all at this webinar series that is initiated by IEEE Joint Chapter Islamabad. So today we have our speaker, Dr. Umar Khan. Dr. Umar Khan is working currently as assistant professor at RIMS NUST at 12 Campus Islamabad. He has ample experience of working in area of MIMO antenna design, 5G antenna design. He has produced more than 50 peer-reviewed conference and journal paper in the area of antenna design. He also have ample teaching experience in the area of antennas. Today, he will deliver the talk on 5G antenna system at sub-6 gigahertz and millimeter wave bands. Without any further delay, I request Dr. Umar Khan to please proceed and deliver the talk. Over to you, Dr. Umar Khan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Noshira, for the introduction. And welcome everyone on this webinar. It will be a very brief and basic talk on how to design antenna and what kind of antennas are required for 5G system. Obviously, it's a very diverse and very wide field, so I'll mainly focus on some typical kind of antennas and some typical applications because this system covers a large band. There are many new bands, so I'll focus again on what kind of antenna design challenges and examples are there in the sub-6 GHz band as well as in the millimeter wave band. Okay, so this is the outline of today's presentation. I'll give a brief overview of what is this 5G technology is all about and how that is relevant to us. I'll be specifically focusing on the students and our Islamabad chapter. So, I mean, by focusing for us, that means how that is relevant to our people in this area. Then I'll talk about, in that introduction as well, I'll try to establish what is the importance of antenna design in the 5G enabled devices. And then I'll talk about what kind of antennas are required. Particularly, I'll focus on the base station antenna. I'll cover some of the sub-6 GHz designs as well as the millimeter wave antenna designs. I'll also briefly talk about the requirement of 5G enabled handset antennas. And again, there I'll talk about the antennas which are covering both kind of bands, followed by conclusion. So, coming to the basic definition of 5G system or 5G technology, what is this all about? So it is in fact a technology standard of cellular communication, just like the 4G system or the 3G system. It is in fact a cellular kind of communication standard, and it is an extension of 4G standard. How it is different from 4G? It is going to support massive connectivity. It is going to provide much higher data rates as compared to 4G. It will be having much lower latency as compared to 4G, and it is going to have much higher reliability as compared to the previous standards. This is a typical diagram that you can see, and it also highlight the applications. Like, it is so many innovative applications that we are envisioning today. Some of that we are already using today. They will be realized at a much higher scale once 5G is in place, like virtual reality, having much higher data rate and having education at home, much better control over energy systems, smart homes, smart cities, things like that. If we just look at its history, so initially NASA partnered back in 2008 with a private company to develop a 5G system. And there the research started to take place. And later on, many new partners added up, and many new consortiums and groups and researchers started to work on this topic. Initial leading research can be traced back to Japan, South Korea, and China as well. So in 2010, the Japanese communication company, they started studying and experimenting with 5G. So in typical communication, wireless communication, if we look at the spectrum that they're using, like 4G, so we can say that all those bands, they lie somewhere between 700 megahertz to 6 gigahertz, somewhere between that number. Like our GSM is working somewhere around 900 megahertz to 1800 megahertz. Uh, Wi-Fi that used to work at 2.4, now 5.8 gigahertz band is also added. So these were the typical band for which we were very familiar. 5G technologies are different in the way that it is going to use, apart from the sub-gigahertz band, it is also going to use the millimeter wave spectrum as well. So the use of that high frequency spectrum that come with its own challenges related to propagation. There are higher losses. So initial studies to use this millimeter wave spectrum that were conducted in 2011. Later on, much of the leading research was carried out in Japan, South Korea, and China. The International Telecommunication Union, which normally defines the standard, the framework, so that everyone is on the same page, everyone use the same kind of standard, and the devices, the systems that are going to eventually come up, they should be able to be used all around the globe. So for that thing, ITU defined standard for 5G called as International Mobile Telecommunication Standard 2020 framework in 2015. Later on, more detailed standards were defined, and specifically over-the-air standards for 5G were defined by the name of 5G New Radio. They were defined by 3G group, partnership group, which initially defined the 3G standard and later on actively worked towards 4G standard as well. So 3GPP defined the standards for 5G New Radio in 2017. By 18, this system was trialed at various levels, and its limited use was actually deployed in Qatar, although there were no 5G enabled devices at that time. And South Korea was the first country to countrywide launch the 5G in 2019. So by 2020, maybe due to COVID, there can be some delays, but this year and the next year, we will see it's more deployment, it's more use in more countries. So that was a brief overview of this 5G technology. Now, because we are always comparing this technology, and most of the time, because we are talking about the cellular communication, so we compare it that how the cellular communication has evolved over the years and where 5G actually fits in. So in 1980s, we had the 1G where we only had the analog voice. We did not have any kind of digital data, but that evolved in 90s to GSM network, which found very widespread deployment all around the globe in almost every country in the world, and that used the GSM and the CDMA. The same then technology evolved into the 3G, which many of us have been using in the past, and some of us may still be using that in Pakistan, which is 3G. That provided us this wireless cellular mobile broadband data. And even in this used the wireless CDMA technologies, WiMAX, and things like that. And these technologies actually help us to have a better features related to wireless data devices, browsing, and things like that. But even this was slow, like when we are using YouTube or other platform for having video calls and things like that. So this was slow. So this evolved into the 4G, which again many of us are using, and I hope some of you will be connected to this webinar using your 4G wireless devices, which is being offered in Pakistan, like by Zong, by Mobilink, and things like that. So it is already in place, which use the long-term evolution. Again, this was defined by 3GPP, these standards. So this is something which we are already using that was developed in 2010. And now by 2020, world is envisioning to have 5G. So this will have much higher data rates as far as the cellular technology and this wireless experience is concerned. But this 5G is not only limited to this mobile communication. It is in fact going to pave way for many innovative technologies of future through not only by giving higher data rates, but also by giving very wider connectivity, very massive connectivity, very high reliability of communication, very low latency. So this kind of feature in 5G technology so this is basically a kind of picture which tells us that what will be the reach of this 5G technology. Looking at lower left side, we see enhanced mobile band, which we all want. We want to have it in 5G as well. But 5G will not be limited to this. Apart from having extreme data rate and extreme capacity, it is also going to provide very high connectivity, massive connectivity with ultra high density of number of nodes, like 1 million nodes per kilometer, which is with today's technology, it may not be possible. It is going to provide very deep coverage, much more coverage than the current standard. It will be much more secure, highly reliable, and it will provide low latency. So with these kind of features, it will pave way for the innovative technologies like uh, driverless cars, on which already a lot of work is taking place. But 5G will be the enabling technology. Just think of a car which is going to be controlled somewhere else, not in the car. So in that case, the kind of data that it will require may be huge, but it will also require a very low latency, and it will also require very high security as well and reliability. So these kind of mission critical control will be handled by 5G. Also, like if we talk about smart cities or Internet of Things, where we will be having thousands of nodes. So to provide, although they may have very low data rate, they may require not very high data rate, but that kind of massive connectivity, 5G will be providing. So this is basically the shape, the understanding, the shape that give us an understanding what will be the reach of 5G technology. So just to give you some more example, or I mean, talking of these example in a bit more detail, let's talk about the autonomous vehicle on which everyone is working. So the car will be communicating with the car, it will be communicating with the infrastructure, it will be communicating with the signal, and it may be connecting with a central base station as well. And so that may require high data rate, that will require a lot many connectivity, and that will also require low latency. So current wireless standard may not be there to properly realize this autonomous driverless car. So 5G will be the enabling technology, which is going to provide these kind of features to the automotive technology of wireless driverless cars. Let's look at another example, the smart cities. So in a smart city, this concept has a very wider definition. It can encompass so many things. But everything like your utility bills, your electricity grid, your information of your cars, maybe of farms and things like that, hospitals, that will be connected with each other to provide seamless kind of connectivity with each other and information to everyone for the optimal use. So in that case, uh, uh, I mean, with that massive connectivity, you may also require high reliability. So 5G will be the enabling technology which will help realize the real smart cities. Now, so these are just some of the examples which will be realized by 5G. Now, some of us might be thinking that these kind of things, like when I drive on the road, the kind of roads that we have, I don't see a driverless car coming to Pakistan in maybe any time in the next decade. And perhaps we may be thinking the same about the smart cities. So a question may come up in our mind, and sometimes when I talk about 5G, some students do ask this thing, whether this is something which we really need to invest in, which we really need to study, and which is really going to be relevant to Pakistan as well to study. So my answer to them is yes, it is going to be very important for us. Why? Because it is not just the smart cars and things. You can talk about a lot many applications which we already have and which may require the 5G technology. So just look at the current situation. Every one of us might be sitting at home because of this COVID situation. Our universities are not open, and we want to keep on going with our education. And many of us are facing the connectivity issues. Many of us says that we cannot see our video. Some of us get disconnected. So this kind of situation has already given us a clue that we need very massive connectivity, reach, I mean, to everywhere in Pakistan. And then we also need very high data rates so that we can connect, we can have these kind of webinars, we can have this information sharing without the hurdle of actually having physical interaction with each other, even in Pakistan. I just took a snapshot of this PTA website, and it says that Pakistan has 166 million cellular subscribers. That amounts to almost 80% of Pakistan's population. Among that, almost half of them are 3G and 4G subscribers. So that means there's a lot of room for the increase in the penetration. And there are 82 million broadband subscribers. Okay, and because of this COVID situation, we have seen that there has been a very sudden increase in the internet usage in Pakistan. So, based on the experiencing that we are going to gain from these kind of lockdown, there will be many positive aspects as well, and one of them will be to have this massive connectivity, to have better data rate for everyone, so that we can have better working facilities even once we are at our home. So that is just one of the things where we need this 5G to have this broadband. Another thing, while again I was driving and I found out that perhaps driverless cars may not be very possible in the near future in Pakistan, but what I saw while driving in Pakistan, in Islamabad, was the smart city cameras that I saw. And when I searched about that thing, so they are doing a very great job. So they have a central station, these kind of cameras you may have seen along the roads and the highways in Islamabad. Then there is a central station where all that data is coming in, and then you see there are a lot many people which are monitoring things. Then they guide the rescue services, the hospitals, the fire services. So just think of if we want to further, so we have already this infrastructure in place, and if we want to further enhance this infrastructure, if we want to have a much better utilization of this infrastructure which is already in place, we need 5G technology. We need that these cameras, they transmit data at a much higher data rate with very low latency. So they will require high data rate. They require also a high reliability. And think about the new buzzword like artificial intelligence. So maybe we don't need those many people here, and maybe they're there, but they can do their task in a much better way if the 5G technology is there. And then over that technology, we can have other things like AI, which can have a much better experiences for this kind of safe city where the data of the camera is automatically goes to the driver sitting in an ambulance or the fire station so that he can assess the situation before actually going to address a situation. The hospital knows what kind of emergency is coming, and the driver who is going to drive the patients or the fire trucks, they may have a better understanding of what roads to use to reach to the destination using better traffic data and avoid congestion, provided they have this 5G infrastructure at the back end. So only that will give us the leverage to design the system. What I'm just talking about, the kind of things where we may incorporate the AI and other things. But at the base of this thing, we require the 5G technology. So these are just some of the examples. So if you look around, you may find many more applications that will pave way for the new technology to come in Pakistan, provided we have this 5G technology. And apart from that thing, we need to have knowledge of the 5G technology, because not only in Pakistan, it is going to be implemented at a very massive level around the globe. So to get the maximum out of this opportunity, we need to have that knowledge, we need to have that expertise so that we can develop systems, we can grab the market share and benefit out of this, out of the growth of this technology. Now, before moving on to the antenna design for 5G technology, it is very important to know the frequency bands. In the 5G technology that has been approved by ITU as well as adopted by FCC and Ofcom and also by 3GPP, we see that apart from the typical conventional sub-6 gigahertz bands, which are the 0.6 gigahertz. Like if you look at FCC, they are going to use 0.6 gigahertz and 3.5 gigahertz band. There are some new bands in the millimeter wave range, which are 24 and 27. So we have not seen the typical cellular communication taking place at these bands. So they are going to define new challenges in the antenna and RF system designed for the 5G technology. Now, as we see that different kind of bands are defined, so these bands are important if you look from the cellular communication point of view. So they are going to do different kind of tasks. So at the lower frequency, the 700 megahertz kind of band, they are going to provide very wider coverage. Obviously not the higher data rates, but maybe control signals and wider coverage that will be provided by the low frequency cells. The high frequency cells, the one which are still at the sub-gigahertz band, or let's call them as a mid band. So these mid band cells, they are not going to provide very high coverage, but still reasonable coverage and a good data rate. Okay, so they are going to provide. They are most likely going to use the MIMO technology, and they are going to provide a very good coverage and data rate. Okay, while the millimeter wave bands, they will provide coverage in a very limited and small areas, but they will provide extremely high data rate. So just look at this picture, like a railway will be communicating in the mid band and as well as the low frequency band. The houses with the satellite, they will be communicating in the mid and low frequency band. But just look at the stadium or a vehicle communicating with other vehicle or with the signal. They will be using the millimeter wave band. So in the stadium where, let's say, some match is taking place, a cricket match where there are thousands of people, and they want to share their live videos with their friends on the social media platform. So for that thing, they will be using the millimeter wave bands. Again, 5G system has to be initially backward compatible with a 4G system. So you can say that it is going to have different kind of cells. The macro cells are going to use the mid band and low frequency band, as well as the high frequency millimeter wave band. But the micro cell will be typically for the millimeter wave band. Also, the base station in a 5G technology, because it's a cellular network, that will be a very important kind of infrastructure. And it is going to use a multi-beam technology that we will talk about once we'll cover the antennas for the base station. And it is going to communicate with the user, with the machines, with the 4G microcells, with the cars, and everything which will be connected to the 5G system. So before moving on to the design of an antenna, so if you sum up our discussion up to now, we can see that 5G is going to provide massive connectivity. It is going to be an enabling technology for the driverless cars. It is going to provide the base for Internet of Things apart from the typical cellular communication with very high data rate. So if we talk about, because it's a wireless service, antenna and the RF system will always be there in any of the device, and it is going to play a very important role. Its design will be important. But the design of the antenna will depend upon what kind of application that is being designed for the 5G. So for the IoT, the antenna design specifications will be very different. For the autonomous vehicles, it will be very different. For the handheld device, it will be dictated by the limited side of that device. And for the base station, again, it will be different. So because of the time as well, I'm just going to focus on the base station because it will always be there whenever 5G infrastructure is going to be deployed. And I'll briefly talk about the antenna specifications and requirement for the base station. Sorry, and the handheld devices. And an important thing before moving on to the actual antenna design is that when the 5G system will be initially deployed, the device for which you are designing the RF system and the antenna, it has to be backward compatible with the 4G and the typical systems like Wi-Fi that we are using today. So any 5G enabled device which is going to come in the market today, apart from 5G, it must be able to work on 4G as well as Wi-Fi because these systems are already in place and they're not going to vanish out very soon. So we have to keep in mind that a 5G device, whether you are designing its antenna to cover the millimeter wave band above the 6 GHz or below 6 GHz, it must also cover the typical LTE, 4G, and Wi-Fi bands. So the base station of 5G technology, there are many buzzwords which we are hearing. That will be in fact a multi-beam kind of technology, which is going to provide service to multiple users simultaneously. We use the word like massive MIMO, so that will be the enabling technology for the 5G base station. If you want to, before actually moving on to the design, a very good review paper and to get the basic understanding is the one which I'm just showing you on the slide, which is multi-beam antenna technology for 5G wireless communication. Okay, this appeared in December 2017 in IEEE Transactions on Antenna and Propagation, and it is the best paper to start your work with if you want to learn more about the massive MIMO and the multi-beam antenna technology for 5G. So in a 5G system at the base station will require a kind of station which have multiple independent beams which can provide service to multiple independent users. To achieve that thing, we need to have kind of multi-beam antennas, okay? Maybe multiple port, multiple beam antennas. So this paper has done a good survey and they have also given a good view of the directions to work in future. So they divide the multi-beam antenna technology for 5G base station into 3 distinct categories. The first one is the passive multi-beam antenna. The second one is the multi-beam phased array antenna. And the third one is the active digital multi-beam antenna. Let me go over them quickly one by one. So in a passive multi-beam antenna, you will be having fixed number of beams, like that base station can only have 6 ports and that will have 6 different beams. Those beams has to be orthogonal ideally, so they don't interfere with each other. So if you have 6 beams, you will be at a time will be only able to communicate with 6 different users connected with the 5G system. Now, to design this kind of base station, you can have sub-arrays, but from the communication point of view, those sub-arrays will be having then distinct N ports. So for an N port system, you will be having N antennas or N arrays that will be generating N beams through which you will be simultaneously calculating. I'm sorry. Okay. So how to realize this thing? This paper gives us a basic overview, like you can have multiple antennas and then you can have some kind of reflector which can generate those 4, 5, or 6 orthogonal beams. And then you can use a parabolic kind of reflector, which will be possible in a base station as you're not limited by the size. But because of the geometry of the parabolic reflector, the same multiple beam feature can also be achieved by having a flat surface of a reflector array. But in any case, you will be having multiple antennas whose beams will be directed to this reflector array or the parabolic reflector, and then based upon the reflection, you will be having the multiple orthogonal beams. You can also have these multiple beams for the base station, having these multiple antennas by having some kind of lens, okay? Like you can have a Lundberg lens. Recently, I saw a very nice design where people use a Lundberg lens having multiple dual polarized antenna elements, and they design it for the base station. So that Lundberg lens, not only that it provide very high gain, it also provide multiple beams for all those switched beam antennas. You can also have a transmit array where the beams of all the antennas are directed, and that transmit array then create those orthogonal multiple beams. Now, you can also have fixed multiple beams by having a kind of antenna array, or basically a subset of multiple arrays. And then you can have a fixed beam forming network which will generate multiple beams from your antenna design. Okay? This kind of technology will use either the Butler matrix or the Rotman lens, and then they will create the multiple beams out of your array or multiple subarrays. So you will be having multiple ports, and each port then will have a feed network, say the Butler matrix, and those through that network, the feed will go eventually into each element of the subarrays, and that will lead you to multiple beams. So that was the first category, and there are endless ways through which you can create the multiple fixed beam. But the drawback of this kind of, although again, it is not very easy to realize, and there are a lot of work still going on to come up with fixed multiple beam antenna arrays for 5G systems. But one of the drawback is once you have the fixed beam, you can only communicate with the user who falls within the footprint of that beam, and that beam cannot be steered. So the second way through which we can realize the base station antenna with multiple beam is through half multi-beam phased array antenna. So in the phased array antenna, we can have m number of antenna elements, and then we can have n beams. And through those n beams, through those networks, basically what they do is, if you look, so each network will send a signal, and using some kind of the phase shift techniques like digital phase shifter or analog phase shifter, those beams will be going to each antenna element, and then each antenna element together will create a beam. And by changing those phase shift, you can always steer the beam. Okay, so there are different ways like passive phase array antenna, and this one where you have then the amplifier after the phase shifter, you can have the active phase array antenna. So although the design will get complicated, but using this technology, you'll be having six, let's say if you are having 6 beams, you can always steer those 6 beams according to your requirements. So if you can track the user, you can provide the service to the user even if that user is moving by steering the beam. The next one is the active digital multi-beam antenna. This is the most sought after technology, although it has many limitations. So in this kind of technology, if you have m number of antenna elements, each antenna element, you will be actually having n baseband kind of signals, and you will not be using the phase shifting in the RF band. You will be in fact using the signal processing, and at the signal processing end, you will do the processing to generate multiple beams. The beauty of this digital multi-beam, if it can be realized, is that you can have multiple beams at your own choice by just having signal processing in your baseband. So with, let's say, m number of antenna elements, you can have n beams, n orthogonal beams. You can have D, C, you can have any variable. You can change the number of beams. So like if you have 100 antenna elements, and using those 100 antenna elements, if you divide those antenna elements into a group of 25, so that means now you have 4 multiple beams, and that you do through your signal processing. But let's say in the next case, if you require 10 beams, you can always divide those 100 antenna element array into a subarray of 10 antenna elements by just have to do the signal processing at the baseband. So this kind of multiple orthogonal beams that you can generate if you can really realize the digital multi-beam antenna. But it comes with several limitations, and those limitations are that there are challenges in actually having those beam forming algorithms which can generate the multiple beams which are orthogonal to each other in real time. You need to have very high-end kind of digital signal processing because you will be doing the signal processing, you'll be converting the analog signal maybe at the microwave frequency. So you need a very high bandwidth, as well as you need to have the capacity to store a very high data. Then the challenges come because each antenna element will be connected to a transceiver, an RF transceiver. So you will be having a challenge of designing the components, the RF components, which can be integrated in a real system. Then once you will be having a large number of arrays, then the mutual coupling comes in, and to design that thing, especially once you are dynamically assigning the arrays, that will be a really challenging thing. Finally, the system implementation, like this one that you see from this references, this has been implemented in a lab environment, but to have this multiple transceivers equal to the number of antenna elements, and then to really integrate the hardware in a real base station system, that will be a real challenge to design a base station antenna with fully digital multi-beam antenna array. Now, talking about the base station antenna, which we have just discussed, I have just picked up a couple of references. So the first one is actually by my professor who supervised me in my PhD, and I have been closely working with this research group. So they have designed a 5G base station antenna in the sub-6 GHz band, and they are basically using the concept of a kind of, you can say, phased array multi-beam antenna. In this work, they can actually generate 72 beams using 288 antenna elements. So they have grouped 4 antenna elements. On one side, you have, they are given in a shape of basically a triangle, a triangle cone, and each antenna element, or basically this 5G base station massive MIMO array, has a bandwidth of 100 megahertz operating in the sub-6 gigahertz of the 5G technology, 3.45 and 3.55 gigahertz. Okay, it has a MIMO mode, so you can always use those sub-arrays by simultaneously sending the same signal or different signal in the MIMO mode, and they can also have the switch beam mode. So at the back end, with the 72 beams, they can have the phase shifters followed by the signal, and then using those phase shift, they have calculated that they can steer the beam in a single plane at multiple locations, at 12 different locations, with in the elevation plane and in the azimuth plane with a degree of plus minus 34 degrees. Okay? So this is basically the geometry of the antenna array on one side. So they are simple patch antennas which are grouped together in a group of 4. And those group of 4 then makes one subarray. And then in one plane, they have multiple arrays and 24 arrays. And then in the 3 planes, they have 72 arrays. Okay. Again, you can use them in the MIMO mode if you like, but you can also use them as a by using the phase shifter as a. But together in a single plane, you can steer the beam in any location by giving the required phase shift for which they have done the calculation. So this is basically an example of a real implementation. It is a portable design as well, so it's a real implementation minus the phase shifting structure. So they have given a good antenna design. They have calculated for the phase shifting required to steer the beam, but to integrate the phase shifting, that is again a challenge in such a design. The next one is basically an example of, again, fixed beam, a passive multiple beam base station antenna, in which they have a simple, they have a stacked patch, and in the elevation plane, because of a lens that they have designed, which is a metamaterial lens, they have done a beam fouring. So they are actually having 7 fixed beams, which you can see in this figure. Okay. And the beams are basically orthogonal to each other. The side lobe levels are lesser than minus 20 dB. And those beams, so the coverage area for this kind of fixed beam multi-beam antenna array, which can be used for the 5G base station antenna, is from minus 27 degrees to 27 degrees. And they have designed it at the millimeter wave 28 gigahertz. So from these two examples, we see that the design for the frequency almost remain the same. Only the thing is that you need to be more careful about your antenna design at the millimeter wave. You need to select the boards which have less losses at the millimeter wave, and you need to have more precision in your fabrication while designing the antenna for the millimeter wave. For the handset application, now one of the foremost user of this 5G system will be the one which will be requiring the broadband, and then that will be the smartphone. So in the smartphone area, a very excellent reference and work can be found, that of the Professor Robin Hong. You can look at his research paper. He has done extremely great work on the design of 5G beam steerable antennas, actually the requirement of the 5G antenna. So he has defined that for a mobile phone and to communicate in the millimeter wave with the base station, you need to have both the polarization. If you assume that your antenna is placed in the XY plane, you should have beam steerability in the XY plane. So you will require some kind of phase array, and you need to have fan beam in the YZ plane. So these kind of requirements are set out for the 5G smartphone antennas for the millimeter wave band. Obviously, for the backward compatibility with the 4G band, and with again for the sub-6 GHz 5G band, you will be requiring the same kind of MIMO antennas which we are dealing with the 4G systems. So this is one of the example of the 5G MIMO antenna design at the millimeter wave band. Again, sorry, at the sub-6 GHz band. Okay. So here they have simply used a kind of structure which is in fact a kind of monopole antenna, and they cover the typical 3.4 to 3.6 GHz 5G band. So they have two element MIMO antenna, and if you look at the radiation pattern, each antenna element have a wider beam width, which is good for a MIMO scenario where the propagation environment is rich in multipath. And based on their beam tilt, we can infer that it will be having good MIMO performance in terms of the envelope correlation coefficient. Then the 5G MIMO antenna for the handset design in the millimeter wave band. Again, we need very narrow beam width, a kind of fan beam in the YZ plane, and a beam kind of steerability or multiple beams in the other plane. So for that, a switch beam 3D covered phase array antenna for mobile terminals were presented in this work. So this is in fact the design, and if you see that it leaves around an ample space for other antenna elements and for other mobile devices, and it is using a simple patch array, which is actually modeled in 3D on the top, on the side, and on the bottom, and through which it is generating three multiple beams, which are actually covering the different areas in the millimeter wave band. Now, lastly, I will present an integrated 5G antenna which covers the 4G as well as the 5G bands, or you can say the sub-6 GHz band as well as the millimeter wave band. So this is the one which we are currently designing at RIMS. In this design, we have a 4-element MIMO antenna, and then we have multiple, actually 4 elements millimeter wave antenna. So in the MIMO antenna is designed by using a modified monopole antenna, which is in fact this one, which cover the 2 bands of the LTE as well as the sub-6 GHz of the 5G band. While the millimeter wave antennas, they are so placed that they provide the multiple beams, thus covering every area in the XY plane, which is defining this antenna. So this is in fact the connected array antenna. We have the slots which are fed by a simple T-junction microstrip power divider. This is the shape. So this is basically the 5G millimeter wave antenna, and there are 4 such antennas which are made out of this connected array antenna to give us better directivity and to have a orthogonal beam. So this is the S parameters that we have achieved. So in the sub-6 GHz band, it is covering the 2.5 GHz LT band as well as the 5G sub-6 GHz band. And in the millimeter wave band, it is covering the 28 GHz band by these connected array antennas. These are the patterns of this antenna at 2.5 and 3.5 GHz in the XY plane for the MIMO antenna, sub-6 GHz MIMO antenna. And from this pattern, we can see that the beams are tilted, shifted from each other, and that provide a good MIMO performance in terms of the envelope correlation coefficient. For the 5G antenna at 28 GHz, we see that for the port 1, the beam is oriented at 90 degrees. For the port 2, the beam is oriented at 180 degrees. The third port beam is oriented at 270 degrees, while the fourth port beam is oriented at the 0 degree. So it is covering orthogonally all those 4 beams, the 4 different locations at the millimeter wave band. So it is in fact a kind of fixed beam multiple antenna, but not for the base station. Because of its size, it can be used in the access point, which will provide basically an interface between the base station and the mobile devices, let's say in the building or in a very close small cells. So these were all I provided you with a general understanding of what is actually a 5G and what are the design aspects of antenna in a 5G system. Covering the sub-6 GHz band as well as the millimeter wave band. So in the base station, we will be requiring multi-beam antenna, for which I covered the technologies through which we can design the multi-beam arrays. And I also provided a design example for a 5G antenna. Thank you very much for your patience in listening. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Umar, for your interesting talk. Now the session is open for questions. So I have received few questions that I ask to you. The first question is, usually 5G and IoT terms IoT terms come together. When we talk about 5G, we talk also about IoT. What is the link between the two? With 3G, 4G, and Wi-Fi, we didn't talk about IoT, but when the 5G emerged, IoT came to play along with. So what is the relationship between the 5G and IoT?
Thank you very much for your question. As we discussed in our earlier slides, 5G is in fact an enabling technology, which is going to provide us very high data rate, reliability, low latency, and massive connectivity. So once we talk about IoT, IoT is just a concept, it is an application. At the base where IoT devices has to communicate. So just think IoT devices can be in a very large number. So providing connectivity wirelessly to that large number is not possible with the current technologies. So 5G will be the enabling technology which will provide the base to the IoT to be fully realized practically by actually providing the massive connectivity.
Okay, thank you very much. The second question is, in case of array antenna, does the bandwidth of the whole antenna system also increase as compared to that of the single antenna element used in the array?
As such, if you're using the same antenna elements again, so the bandwidth will stay the same. But because of the mutual coupling, then we look at another figure of merit for the array, which is called as the total active reflection coefficient. So in that case, normally the bandwidth is further limited because of the mutual coupling of an array as compared to the bandwidth of a single antenna element.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question is, thanks for the 5G antenna overview. Can the speaker comment on the potential of on-chip antenna, especially in millimeter wave bands of 5G?
Thank you. So on-chip antenna, as far as I know, they suffer from high losses, and there are still issues with its practical realization and integration. They have low gain. So no doubt, when we are talking about IoT and things like that, people will prefer to have antennas which are integrated inside. As long as they can communicate well with the base station and the infrastructure of 5G, they can work well. But the main problem is with their low gain and low efficiency. So if that can be overcome, yes, that will be very important, especially at the millimeter wave band for the 5G enabled devices.
Thank you very much. The next question is, in your opinion, what are the potentials of reflector array antennas to be used in 5G, as passive and active reflector arrays can perform much better as compared to parabolic antennas and can produce multi-beams, etc.
Thank you. So for the reflector array, obviously they can be used in a fixed multi-beam antenna environment. And as I already outlined, fixed multi-beam antenna array, although they are being designed and possibly they will be used as well, they are something which are not the best solution. Yes, a reflector array will be much better than a parabolic reflector to be used in a base station if it is using fixed multiple beams. But in a base station, the real thing would be to have multiple beams which can be steered. So phased array multi-beam antenna and as well as a complete digital multi-beam antenna, that will be something which will be preferred over uh, a fixed multi-beam antenna, which may be using a reflect array or a transmit array or something similar.
Thank you very much. Dr. A few questions. For example, which software packages do you recommend for antenna designer from your experience? And please also comment on the type of antenna or the size of antenna. Is it electrical large or electrical small? So from this point of view, which software is better as compared to the other?
Thank you. When we are talking about millimeter wave band, even if we design a handset antenna and where we have to simulate the complete handset, that will be of multiple wavelengths and that will require a massive kind of resources out of the computer. About the software, since at RIMS we only have CST license, we are only familiar with CST, which is a fairly good software. I'm not sure about the other software because we don't have them, but I'm sure that they are going to provide an equally good experience, just like the CST. But we need to be mindful that we will require great computational resources because if we talk about the base station antenna, there will be, we talk about the massive MIMO antenna, we'll be having multiple elements. The overall structure will be multiple wavelengths long. And in that case, our computation time will take a lot of time.
Thank you. The next question is, what about beam steerable reflect arrays? So this is the question. So I think the audience want you to comment on beam steerable reflect arrays. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not very much familiar with the beam steerable reflect arrays, but if they can steer the beam in the real time by actually the movement of the reflect array, maybe that can be a helpful feature. But then that will require a kind of mechanical movement, and I'm not sure how that will be helpful in a real scenario where you may require to steer your beam at a very much faster rate.
Okay, the next question is, sir, can you please share some information on millimeter wave 5G antenna based on SIW technology?
Thank you for your question. I did not touch upon the ways you can design an antenna. I just try to put up the requirements that will be in a base station of the 5G enabled system, as well as in the 5G enabled mobile handset device. So the kind of radiation characteristic that will be required, this is what I have outlined, and they can be achieved in different ways. So you can, I mean, the best way is to start with the simplest antenna. If that can fit, that meet your requirement, that will be the best solution. Now, as far as the SIW technology is concerned, in the 5G, they may provide much better experience in terms of the bandwidth, in terms of the losses. So perhaps that will be the feature that you can use of a SIW kind of cavity or the transmission line while designing a 5G antenna or the system at the millimeter wave band.
Thank you. Can you please comment on the hardware limitation or measurement facility limitation for 5G antenna design, either locally or internationally?
At RIMS, we have the measurement capability up to 40 gigahertz in terms of the anechoic chamber and the VNS that we have. So we are comfortable in measuring up the millimeter wave antenna design for the 28 and 38 gigahertz bands. We don't have the phase shifting structures right now, but we'll try to have them soon in our system so that once we design some kind of phased array system, we can also measure them at our facility at RIMS.
Thank you. The next question is, please comment on the mismatch of impedance of free space 377 ohm and the impedance of the antenna.
All right. So, I mean, ideally, the antenna is designed in a way that it should radiate well. And once we have designed the antenna, it means that its waves are detaching well with the antenna in terms of once it is transmitting. So antenna should be well matched so that its waves are transmitting in the desired direction with the highest possible efficiency.
Thank you. Dr. Umar, in your opinion, as RF microwave student, which kind of courses a student shall take in the undergrad or graduate degree program to pursue his research in the area of antennas or RF and microwave?
Okay, thank you for your question. So at the undergrad, you must, first of all, that I believe is a core course in physics as well as in electrical engineering. That is the electromagnetic theory. So you must be very well versed with the electromagnetic theory, the electrostatics, magnetostatics, and the Maxwell equations. You should also be familiar with electrodynamics. Then you need to be very well versed with the vector calculus because that is all the base of defining and understanding the Maxwell equation and the phenomena related with that. Then at the undergrad as well as the grad level, you should have studied a course on the microwave engineering covering the basics of the transmission line and the microwave devices, the importance of impedance matching, as well as a course on antenna theory and design. So these are some of the basic courses that you should be familiar with, you should have covered before actually starting research or actively working in this area.
Okay. Dr. Umar, can you please comment on, because these days we are listening about artificial intelligence or machine learning. So is there or any relationship between them and antenna technology, or there will be any relationship in the future or no?
Thank you for your question. I'm not very much familiar with these technologies, but I'm very sure that they have relevance everywhere, and they are also relevant to the Antenna and Propagation Society as well. And that is why you must have seen some special issues of our publication, the publication of Antenna and Propagation Society, IEEE Antenna and Virus Propagation Letters, where they are actually they have published a lot many, or they will be publishing papers that will be dealing with the application of AI and machine learning in the area of not only the antenna design but also antenna and the propagation. So yes, there will be applications. What exactly will be the applications, I'm not very sure.
Okay, so next question is, when we talk about the antennas, we also see, when we talk about the practical antennas, there also are radome that is attached to the antenna. So what's your comment on the effect of radome on the 5G antennas?
Not only for the 5G antenna, for any antenna, whenever you're designing, radome is an integral part of an antenna. Or if you're using that one, it becomes an integral part of an antenna, and you have to take that thing into account. It can affect your impedance matching. It can affect your radiation performance as well. So radome has to be designed. If you're simulating your antenna has to be simulated in the presence of that radome. And for the radome, especially at the millimeter wave frequencies, you need to be very careful in choosing the material of your radome so that it does not affect your antenna radiation efficiency.
Okay, in your opinion, in Pakistan, when will be the 5G technology be available to all the users?
Again, I cannot comment on that thing. I mean, there were some trials happening. Huawei, a Chinese company, has a lot of presence in Pakistan. So if they will be going towards 5G very soon, it is expected that they will be implementing some system in Pakistan as well. Just to give you something to think about how likely 5G is going to come to Pakistan. Back in 2011 or 12, when I was buying my first tablet, I was confused whether I should pay. I was not in Pakistan. But I had to eventually come back to Pakistan. So I was thinking whether I should pay a much more amount to have a 4G enabled, or yes, it was 2013. So whether I had to give a lot of extra amount to buy a 4G enabled tablet, or should I only go for Wi-Fi device? My initial thinking was that 4G is not likely to come in Pakistan in maybe next 10 years. But when I was in Pakistan in 2015, and I actually bought only the Wi-Fi enabled tablet. So when I was in Pakistan in 2015, I saw that 4G was already there, and it was there at an affordable rate. So if I had chosen the tablet with 4G, I would be using that tablet. So we should not be pessimistic about the coming of 5G in Pakistan. I'm very sure that it will be here very soon. We should be start thinking of how we are going to use that technology for the betterment of our society right now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Umar, for your time, for giving us this very informative and interesting talk. We hope that we will continue this webinar series in future as well. Thanks again for your time. The video, just for announcement that this video will be available on our YouTube channel, which is RIMS-NUST. We'll post this video there, in which you will find all the discussions and all the content of this video. So I would like to end this webinar now. Thank you very much, Dr. Umar, for giving your time, and hope to see you in future webinars as well.
Thank you very much, Dr. Noshir, for giving me this opportunity to talk to the people and give this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.